Hi everyone! We are at episode 12, which is a bit shorter for a change. In this video, we're going to use the AMD Compressonator tool to make our final DDS texture files. I'll also do a brief how-to with NVIDIA Texture Tools at the end, in case you prefer to use that option instead. I'm told that NVIDIA Texture Tools requires you to have an NVIDIA graphics card, while the AMD Compressonator is GPU agnostic. I'm not entirely sure if all that's true, so feel free to try both and choose which one you like best. I'll put a link to both of them in the description, and I'm going to be using the GUI version of each. We ended our last video with the diffuse, normal, and environment maps in hand. But they are all in the PNG file format, and Skyrim can't read PNG. It uses DDS as the texture file format. So our last step is to convert these PNGs to DDS. GIMP can do this, but it's not the best, and it can't do the most updated compression type, which is called BC7. Cathedral Assets Optimizer can do the conversion, but it only makes BC7 files, which is not ideal. Other tools can also do it, with varying degrees of quality, as described here in the AU Wiki and in this great article, both of which are linked in the description. As noted in both articles, you'll get the highest quality from either the AMD Compressonator or NVIDIA Texture Tools. One word of caution here, don't ever export your files directly from your texturing software as DDS. This seems efficient, but the quality will not be good. Plus, you really want to have and keep all your images in a lossless format, like PNG or TGA. I alluded to this in our last video, but let me state it here right up front. I highly recommend keeping all of your original resolution PBR maps and the final texture files in their PNG or TGA format in the original resolution. Put them somewhere safe, as you never know when you will need or want to go back to them. The same goes for your high poly and low poly models. Alright, let's see what this Compressonator tool is all about. First, open it up and we need to tweak some settings. I will not pretend to know all about this program, but I'll go over the settings that were recommended to me. Click the gear to open settings, and then click in the Encode With box and select GPU DirectX from the dropdown. Then make sure all the rest of your settings look like this by clicking in the boxes and changing them as needed. Click Close when you're done. Then exit and restart the program so that the new settings will take effect. When it reopens, select your 5 final PNG images and drag and drop them into the upper left pane, or you can double-click and navigate to the files if you prefer. Once they are all listed there, select the top image, which for me is the donut diffuse file. Before we do anything else, we need to generate Mip Maps for each image. Mip Maps are progressively smaller versions of the image that can be loaded into the game at different viewing distances. This article here is very helpful to understand how they work and why they are important. In the AMD Compressonator, we have to generate Mip Maps manually, which is a little annoying, but it's also kind of cool because you can see them right here once they have been made. Do take note, though, that this is going to be easy to forget, and that would be bad. You should always have Mip Maps for all of your texture files, unless you know exactly what you're doing by excluding them. So let's make some Mip Maps. With the image selected on the left, click the little shrinking boxes icon up here at the top. In the pop-up window, it will probably default to 4x4 in the first box, which is fine. For filter type, select D3DX Linear, and then click Generate. You will see the mip-mapped images in the main window now. To view the different levels, just choose the MIP level up here in this little drop-down. If you don't like how these look, you can play with the settings and regenerate them. But honestly, I've been advised not to go too nuts about how your MIP maps look. The most important thing for Skyrim is that you have them. Alright, go ahead and do this for all of the images that you've loaded in, even the normal maps. Select the image, click the icon, the settings should carry over and look like this, and hit Generate. repeat, and this is super quick since it's just a few button clicks to work your way through them. Each image will become a tab at the top, and you can quickly check this line at the bottom of each to make sure MIP levels were generated. Once you've done that, we need to set the compression settings for each image. There are different types of compression, and I am in no way qualified to explain it, so I will refer you to this great article by Nathan Reed. We need to use specific compression types for our images depending on various factors. I'll talk more about this in a bit, but for now, have a look at the AU Wiki, which gives clear guidance on which type you should use for which map. Okay, let's set the compression type for our diffuse image. Click the plus sign to expand the donut diffuse options and double-click on Add Destination Settings. In the pop-up, Source is the file that you've already loaded in, so you can skip that. You can leave the destination name and folder as they are, and it will put the new DDS files into a folder called Results right alongside the original PNGs. If you want to change where they go, just click the 3 little dots here on the folder line and navigate to your preferred location. Down in the destination options, click in the first line for Format. Then use the drop-down to select BC1. We do not have transparency for our donut diffuse image, so BC1 is the ideal format. If you do have transparency, like our normal maps do, then you would select BC7 here instead. Click in the quality box and change it to 1, which is max quality. The rest of all this can be left alone. Click on Save. We'll repeat this process for the rest of the maps using the AU Wiki as our guide. Click the plus sign to expand the options for the donut environment map. Double-click on Add Destination Settings, then set this one to BC4, and make sure the quality is 1, and hit Save. Expand the donut normal map, double-click Add Destination Settings, change this one to BC7, quality to 1, and save. Now for the plate, expand its diffuse, double-click, set it to BC1 since it doesn't have transparency, put the quality at 1, and save. And finally, expand the plate normal map, double-click, set it to BC7, quality to 1, and click Save. After they are all set, click back through them and make sure each texture map is the correct compression type. It's worth paying attention to this. In a nutshell, it matters for the appearance of the object in the game, for the file efficiency, and for game performance. You can read more about that here if you are interested. Now you may think that saving everything as BC7 regardless of transparency is a good idea, and I used to think that, but doing so will just use up extra disk space without any real noticeable gain. In fact, according to this article, you're probably better off using a higher resolution image such as 2K instead of 1K and saving it as BC1 versus saving your lower resolution image as BC7. So the take-home message here is just be very thoughtful about this and very deliberate about which compression type you choose. Okay, once you have everything set for all the maps, hold Control and click on each file to select them all. Click on the file name part, not the little thumbnail, and then right-click and select Process 5 Selected Images. The Compressonator will do its thing, and the first time it may take a few minutes, so just be patient. Future processing will be much quicker because it's doing some stuff in the background, and it'll save that so then it won't have to do those things again unless you later change the main encoding settings. When it's done, you will see a message, and hopefully it says 5 succeeded and 0 failed at the bottom of the main window here. And your compressed DDS files will be saved into a results folder in the same place that your original PNG files are, unless you change that from the default. Open that folder up and make sure the files are there. If you want to see how they compare to the originals, select the newly created DDS file in the Compressonator tool. It will have a green dot if it was made successfully. Then click the double square button up here at the top, confirm that the correct files are listed in the pop-up window, which should be your original PNG in box 1 and the new DDS in box 2, and click OK. You can see the results here in the viewing area, and if you scroll way in on both of the color images, they should look quite similar. If something looks wrong, double-check the settings, including the compression type that you picked, and then run the tool again. And that's all there is to it. Our final textures have been converted to DDS, and we are ready to get into NIFScope, which we will tackle in the next video. If you have an NVIDIA graphics card, or perhaps even if you don't, you can use NVIDIA's Texture Tools instead of the AMD Compressonator to make your DDS files. It has a standalone tool and a plugin for Photoshop. The standalone is supposedly the superior choice. To install it, you need to make an NVIDIA account and then just download the tool here. Double-click on the exe file in your Downloads folder and walk through the prompts. Once you have it installed, launch the NVTT Export Executable file. You can leave all the default settings, except that I assume compression effort corresponds to quality, and so me being me, I set that to highest to make sure I get the best results. Then you simply drag and drop your PNG or TGA image into the main window, choose the compression type up here on the left side, and hit Save As. Pick the location, file name, and type as DDS, and then hit Save, and the tool will work its magic. Note that some images and settings will add more processing time. In fact, the tool can even appear to hang up, get stuck, or even say not responding while it's working. Just be patient and let it finish. For example, it took one of my 4K normal maps probably about 5 minutes or so to process as BC7 with compression effort set to highest. Be aware that if you stop the tool before it's done, it may appear that a file was created, but the file may end up being empty and therefore useless. And that's all there is to it for the NVIDIA Texture Tool. It's even easier than the Compressonator since it will auto-generate your Mip Maps. Alright, before we call this episode a wrap, let's have a quick chat about texel density since we didn't cover this way back when we talked about UV mapping. Here's a really great article on the subject by garagefarm.net, and also a nice video by Malcolm341, and I'll put links to both of these in the description. Basically, texel density refers to how pixels, which are the tiny little squares that make up images, are spread across your 3D model. It is affected by the UV map, which, if you recall, controls how the image will be displayed on the mesh. It's kind of hard to explain, but much easier to see. So I encourage you to have a look at the article and the video. There are two important things to remember about texel density. First, the higher the texel density, the better your model will look, but the trade-off is game performance. So you need to strike a good balance. Second, you want the texel density to be similar all around your model. If you end up with more image pixels in certain parts, then the resolution of the picture that gets overlaid on top will be different across the model, and you'll notice this, pretty obviously in some cases. Using a checker texture to test out the texel density is a good idea, and we did this way back in video number 3 when we UV unwrapped our models. The checker tiles should be all about the same size on all of the meshes that make up your model. And there are add-ons like the one mentioned in this article that can help ensure that you have a consistent texel density. Or you can use good old-fashioned eyeballing, which may be quite adequate in most cases. So keep this in mind as you are UV unwrapping, organizing your UV map, and working with the texture images for your models. Balance the resolution versus performance, noting that very large or very important objects deserve more resolution, and also make sure the resolution is consistent across the whole model and with other objects in the area. Alright, now we can call it a day and get ready for the next video, where we are actually going to make a NIF from all of our files. Finally, you'll be able to see how your donuts are going to look when they're loaded into the game. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!